What time that oh,
YouTube, welcome to episode 156. Make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hmm.
what we looking at today?
Oh,
Hmm. Oh, condolences and prayers to the victims on that plane crash.
uh-huh.
Another plane crash on June 12, 2025. Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787, crashed immediately after takeoff. It wasn't even in the air 60 seconds, leaving you and
Wow.
me to figure out what went wrong. How does a
Uh-huh.
plane that takes off perfectly and looks textbook all of a sudden just start losing lift and heading right back towards the ground again? Was it a maintenance issue? Was it a mechanical issue? Was it pilot error? Was it software? Or did Boeing just make another bad plane? Okay, so the
Wow.
problem is if you're watching this video right here and you've seen this video on the news, unfortunately, you're looking at the wrong version of this video because you're looking at a copy of the video and not the original. Now, all of the news media outlets were eager and quick to be the first ones to get these videos up this morning. So that's what they posted because that's what they had. But then later on, we got the original version of it. And it's this original version that I'm about to show you here that gives us clues into what might have happened to Air India Flight 171 on this Boeing 787.
That's crazy.
And it wasn't even in the earth 60 seconds. That is crazy. And then they said there was one survivor. He walked away.
Hmm.
That's
Wow.
crazy. Mm.
Wow.
Didn't even take off really. I wonder what are they saying that happened? I know I read somewhere where they said maybe the flaps or something, but they always come out with a different theories, but they were saying something about possibly issues with the flaps or something.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah, that's sad. But the survivor said he heard like a big boom or a big noise or something. He's gonna be traumatized for the rest of his life.
Uh-huh.
8 Dreamliner, right as it took off, something went wrong. What was it that went wrong? So let's take a look at these clues. Okay, so I'll show you what's wrong with this version. This is what they showed on CNN. See how you could tell it was shot off of a computer screen? And you can see the reflections on the screen. And you can hear people talking in the background. Now take a look at this newer version, which appears to be the original video to me. It's a much clearer, and it
I was
starts
just
a
trying
little
to
bit
say that it's
sooner.
clear.
And I want you to listen to the audio and tell me what you hear. So did you hear what I hear? See, this is what being an engineer is we always look for patterns. We hear things, we see things, and I heard something different here. So I'm going to play this very first part of it just as the plane flies by. I'll play it like 3 or 4 times in a row for you. And I want you to listen to the sound that it's making as it flies right by the screen. It's going to go zoom. Listen to the shape of that sound.
Oh, I heard that now.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Boeing 787 jetliner that you heard flying by. But yet, didn't it almost sound a little bit like there was a prop plane? So that got me
What
thinking,
plane?
So it sounds to me like what we were hearing here
A prop plane.
Mm.
is a ram air turbine, otherwise known as a rat. And I smell a rat, folks. Okay, what makes this so interesting is that the rat deployment, it's automated, and it's a normal safety feature of the 787. So in these twin engine jets like the 787, if both of your engines fail, or if the aircraft loses some kind of major electrical or hydraulic pressure, the rat comes out of its hiding there and it automatically deploys, and it will then provide this emergency power that the plane needs to do whatever it has to do to land. And so in the 787, they store the ram air turbine behind a small panel that's on the wing fuselage. And so it's a spring-loaded mechanism that automatically just pops this thing out. And so this is what I thought you were hearing here, is that buzz from the ram air turbine. So I'm going to show you here. This is a video clip from Japan Airlines that was making an emergency landing one time. And you'll see it deployed. And let's take a look at it. And you'll hear that same type of sound. Here, I'll show you what it sounds like. Here is a Japan Airlines plane coming in for an emergency landing. And you'll see it hanging down right here behind the rear wheels on the fuselage. And it's just a little turbine fan. And you'll hear it sound just like a small airplane with a propeller. So listen for it, and I'll show you when it's coming. You'll see it spinning right there as the plane comes in. Here is another example of a 787 coming in at.
You can hear
I don't know.
it?
All the sounds sound the same to me. And then they sound the same.
I can't hear it either.
I have no
I was
idea.
making sure I wasn't tripping.
They all sound the same, so I don't know what I mean. He
But
the
I think in
engineer.
that one I heard it at the end.
I don't
But
know what I heard.
that's a different sound from the beginning.
But on the plane that crashed that he was saying was the original, I heard the noise he was talking about.
Let's
But I
see.
couldn't tell you. It wouldn't stick out to me like something is wrong, but
At a Boeing test facility, and listen as it flies by. You'll hear it nice and crisp and clear too. It almost sounds like a drone.
Did you hear it?
I heard that noise.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't be able to identify if that ain't what you're supposed to hear. I'm sure when the plane is in the air, it make a lot of noises. But with him being an engineer and probably had been working on planes and stuff before, he know these different parts and the sounds they make.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this video was shot off of a computer screen also, and you can see the person who shot it moving the mouse around. There goes the plane down the runway. And when it clears behind that checkered building there is about the point when it's going to rotate and take off. So you can see the nose is lifting up right around there. So there it goes. So far everything looks smooth. I don't see any smoke, nothing burning. You can't really tell in this grainy video whether there's anything wrong with the plane. It gets up to about 600 feet or so right here. Now it's starting to go back down again. I can't tell if it's drifting over to the left or if it's just, the angle and everything that this was shot at. But it is going right back down again here. So at some point, something went wrong there, and now it's going to crash back in there. And you don't actually see the plane hit. You just see a fireball off into the distance. And that was all that we had on this particular security camera video. Okay, so if we look here at the Flight Radar 24 data, it shows here's the takeoff. So first of all, the flight was supposed to leave Ahmedabad at 1:10 p.m., and it ended up leaving at 1:38 p.m. There was some video circulating around.
I wonder, are
Right.
they gonna say it was some type of maintenance issue that delayed it or whatever?
Man,
That's crazy.
condolences.
Mm. That's terrible.
From a passenger who was on an earlier flight earlier in the day, who showed some video inside the plane, and he said it was very hot in there, like the AC wasn't working. So we don't know if that means anything, or if that video was even really from a passenger that was on it earlier. Sometimes people like to throw out fake data whenever there's a big incident like this. Okay, so it took off right here, and it looks like their maximum height that they have here is about 625 feet with a ground speed of 174 knots, which seems to me to be right in the range of where you want to be for your V1 when you lift off. Now, whether there's other conditions that may degrade that number, don't know at this time. There's not much to show, so it's just going to be boom, boom there. So there weren't any data points really to speak of. So in that previous video clip that I showed you of the plane taking off, the security camera must have been somewhere around over here along the left side of the runway. So the plane takes off, it goes airborne up to 625 feet, and then starts to lose altitude and comes back down, and it's going to crash right over here into the BJ Medical College.
Mm.
Oh, I didn't know it hit a medical facility.
Wow.
I didn't know that. That's just terrible. That's crazy and scary.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the flight direction right there. Came right over here and crashed into one of the buildings over in here. And then there at the scene, there was just numerous fires being put out everywhere. And there seemed to be like hundreds and hundreds of people showing up there to help out. So it was just pandemonium everywhere. But at least it happened at a medical college where there's help right there. And when you look at all of these photos of like the damage and what happened to these buildings, look at that. There's some of your landing gear inside the building. And then here's, looks like the rear end of the plane. It's hard to tell from that shot. That looks like the tail. And then right here, it looks like the rear end of the plane sitting on top of the building. And then you're going to see an aerial view of that same thing. So, man, this plane just got torn apart. And you would think nobody would survive this, but actually, ladies and gentlemen, take a look at Mr. Ramesh.
Wow.
That is crazy. And his brother, I think, passed that was traveling with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure they were sitting next to each other or real close to each other. So that's crazy.
Vishwash Kumar, and I hope I pronounced his name right. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I think he's about 45 years old, and he was a passenger in seat 11A, according to the news. Now, he says he jumped out of the plane, but I don't think that really happened. I think the plane crashed and fell apart, and then he jumped out of the wreckage. And so here the news has released photos of him in the hospital, and there below his picture is a photograph of his actual boarding pass showing seat 11A. So if we look at the floor plan of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner here from Flight 171 of India Airlines, you can see, according to the ticket that he had there in the picture, if everything is correct, he was sitting here in seat 11A, which looks like that upgraded business class section. Yeah, he was in the last row of it. I still don't see how you would survive like this, because these are the wings here and the fuel tanks are here. And so this would be the maximum point of the explosion, I would think, on a fully loaded plane that just took off. So it must be just a pure miracle of God that, somehow maybe this wing tore off a little bit and left a hole for him to jump out. Now, there might be some problems in translation and communication and language barriers and all that, but the stories that I've seen so far say that he claimed he jumped out of the plane. Now, I don't think that means he jumped out of the plane before it crashed. There's no way you would survive anything like that. I think what he was saying was that the plane crashed and it broke apart into pieces, and he then jumped out of it. Now, going back to the security cam video here, as it goes up, you don't see any sign of a problem here. But they must have known there was something wrong. So probably right around here is when they issued the Mayday. We do know that they issued a Mayday call. And then it started to drop down right here. So they must have known as soon as they took off that probably there wasn't enough power. So that's why I think either both engines weren't thrusting hard enough, or maybe they were dying, or there was an electrical problem. And that's why the RAM deployed. On nearly all plane crash videos, people will always look at this and say, you know what? I don't see that the flaps were set, so it couldn't have gotten airborne. Well, on these grainy videos, it is fairly hard to tell, whether the flaps are set properly or not. So we simply don't know about that part at this point. But we do know that the U.S. is sending somebody from the NTSB to help them out. So, the NTSB is experts. They are experts at reading data out of cockpit flight recorders. So hopefully they'll be able to recover those and find out what was going on and see what inputs were coming into the computer. Now, I know a lot of people like to come down on Boeing because of all of the previous crashes, but you know what? The Dreamliner here has a great track record. It's a very, very safe airplane. It's been around since about 2011 or so, and I believe there's about 1,100 of these flying around the world, and they've never had like a major crash like this, and they've certainly never suffered a hull loss at all either. So I think you could write this off as an extremely safe plane, and whatever happened here must be some kind of a one-off. Was it a maintenance issue? It just really seems to me like they didn't have enough thrust because nothing else was going wrong. They didn't tilt the plane too much and stall out. The plane stayed level right till the very end. So it looks like these pilots were doing a great job trying to control whatever they could with it. It doesn't matter what your ground speed is either, because once you get up in the air there, if you don't have that thrust, the speed doesn't matter. It's going to just come right back down. And then just checking the stock market on Boeing, on their stock price, it did have an effect on the price. You can see it right here. Fell off like a cliff overnight. And so the stock is down almost $10.
Wow. That is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody on the plane except that one survivor.
Condolences, condolences, condolences.
It's terrible. Terrible.
That's tragic.
Yeah. And like I said, that man that walked away, he gonna be traumatized for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
That's sad. Oh Lord, more Diddy stuff. Is that one girl still on the stand?
Where's the most recent one? I don't know if she's still on the stand or not.
Mm. What day is it on? 2021. What day is it on?
Day 20.
Oh.
In the Diddy Sex Trafficking Trial, Sean Combs' attorneys confronted his former girlfriend about how she profited from their relationship. The woman who testifies under the name Jane has testified that she was traumatized and used by the music mogul. Here are highlights from day 20.
You spoke on direct examination about regret, right?
Yes.
Because you regret a lot of the choices that you made in your 3.5 years of a relationship with him, right?
I would say that I resent him for leading me into the lifestyle that he led me to.
And you chose to participate in that lifestyle for many years, right?
I would say that my choices were made under a lot of emotional pressure due to my relationship.
Because you were in a relationship with him, right?
Yes.
And you wanted to stay in that relationship?
Yes.
You loved him very much?
Yes.
And you did not want to break up?
No.
And at times he would say, okay, we could just break up, right?
He would say that, but his actions proved otherwise.
He would say to you, "We could just break up," right?
He has said those things. Yes.
And then you did not want to break up with him, right?
No.
There were several times that you didn't talk to him for a few weeks or even a few months, but ultimately you did not want to break up with him.
Of course not.
And so you feel resentful at this time that you had sex with other men for a long time in your relationship with him, right?
Yes, I resented the way that he went about introducing me to this lifestyle, was built under a lot of emotional manipulation and pressure. Yes.
She
I
didn't
told
have
you.
to do it.
I told you the defense is going to paint the picture.
But look,
Unfortunately,
she didn't have to do it.
I know that's what I was saying yesterday, but they're still going to paint the picture. Even if there was some type of victimization, they're going to paint the picture that these women had a choice. They could have left. They stayed in it. And then that's just like if this is the same girl, they were saying something about that she would call and coordinate and arrange some of the free calls. And it was times when he didn't schedule them, she did it to surprise him. So, oh, even though if she did on the back end feel like, dang, I need to do this because this is birthday or whatever, she initiated it. So they're going to use that against her that she was a willing participant at times. But that's the defense's job. I'm like, you can't schedule free calls and then do them as a surprise and then say you didn't want to do it. That's just my thought.
I do resent that about our relationship very much.
Because you wanted to just be in a relationship with him for 3.5 years?
No, because I was already so hooked from the beginning. I fell in love with somebody who I didn't understand, like the terms and conditions of what our relationship would be like. And so once I was hooked into that and I fell in love, but my emotions were in play, so it was many, many blurred lines of love and affection, mixed with emotional pressure to perform these things that my lover really desired. And so I wanted to fulfill my duties as a good girlfriend, and
because you wanted to be a really good girlfriend and partner. You used the word partner over and over again.
yes,
On direct, you wanted to be a very good partner for him, right?
yes,
And lover for him.
I did,
And you just said you were hooked on the love and affection that you felt from him, right?
definitely.
And you kept coming back because you loved his love and affection and the way he treated you, right?
I was coming back for that. Yes, not for the other things.
Right? You came back because you loved his love and affection and your relationship with him.
Definitely.
I think on direct examination, you said you're having trouble answering for yourself why you agreed to these nights over and over again, right?
Yes.
And these are questions you're trying to answer for yourself now, 8 months later, after his arrest, right?
Yes.
The why. You spoke about on direct examination that you're having trouble understanding why even now, 8 months later, right?
The why? Which why?
Why you came back and started doing these nights over and over again, right? You're having trouble understanding why 8 months later still, right?
I struggle with my why, but it's becoming more and more clear as I'm in therapy and as I've had this healthy distance to really assess the situation.
You're in therapy now,
Yes?
and it's becoming clear to you now that you're in therapy, right?
Yes.
But this is something you are trying to understand now, and it wasn't something you could be clear about until you went to therapy. Is that right?
I think that when you're under that,
Can you answer my question, which is you're in therapy now 8 months later?
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be able to answer the questions.
That's a fair objection. So, Ms. Garagos, if you're not getting a responsive answer, you can make an application to the court, but otherwise the witness should be permitted to complete her answers.
Understood, Your Honor. In the end, what you knew, Jane, was that you love Mr. Combs, right?
yes,
And I think you said even 2 days ago you love him currently. Is that right?
I do.
Oh my God. Okay. Mm. See, I think stuff like that is gonna just, I don't know. You think she a good witness for the prosecution?
I mean, she's saying she came back. Like,
I
if
know, but
you
do you think she's a good witness for the prosecution?
listen,
Because she's blurring the lines. You were gone away from this man, as sadistic and crazy as he was and abusive. You left, you got away, you knew what you were leaving and that you had left. Then you come back, not blaming a woman for going back because they've been abused or whatever, because I know that's a cycle and it's hard. And some men play that narcissistic role and that manipulation role and get the women to come back. So you can't fault them in that aspect. But I'm like, with her, you were gone. And then you were planning the freak house. You were surprising him with some.
you might get off.
See, I told you that the other day, and you was like, "What?"
You would have done anything during this time to spend time with him?
Yes, I loved spending time with my partner.
You wanted to be close to your partner?
Yes,
You wanted to be close to your lover?
yes,
And you wanted to cuddle with him. Does that sound right?
and give him foot rubs, yes.
He liked the foot rubs part of it?
Yes, he did.
I think you've told me before that you enjoyed taking care of him after these hotel nights. Does that sound right?
Objection to counsel making herself a witness, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Yes, he was my baby.
You liked kind of mothering. You liked taking care of your partner and your lover.
Yes, I'm naturally nurturing. Yes,
So after these nights when you guys would be up for a long time, it would be, I think you testified, sometimes 24 to 36 hours, right?
yes,
And then you would go back to his home, or you would stay in the hotel, and you loved the time when you guys got to be close and spend that time together, right?
yes,
You loved to hug him and cuddle him,
and bathe him.
and bathe him and give him foot rubs.
Yes, watch his favorite TV show,
What was his favorite show?
Dateline,
And you would watch that for hours, right?
till we fell asleep, yes.
I think you testified that he would take Xanax to fall asleep, right?
Yes,
But that you would stay up, and that was your favorite time. You felt very close to him afterwards, right?
yes.
You also said you didn't want him to feel judged. What does that mean?
I meant, do you mean in the context of these rooms?
Yes.
In the context of these rooms, I felt that my partner was trusting me in a very vulnerable moment. And, well, so he made me believe that this was something really special, that this was something him and I only did. And I really took that on very strongly. And I really wanted to just go along with these things because I felt like if I can be my partner's escape, then I would be. And I didn't want to judge him for the things I noticed in these rooms about his behavior and the things that he liked. And I just would kind of put blinders on and just go along with what he was telling me to do. But deep down in my heart and from what I could assess in the situation, I mean, I didn't want him to feel that eyes were on him while he was in this vulnerable state.
Do you remember telling the government that after just about 2 to 3 dates, you already thought that he was sad, depressive, and had shaky hands?
Yes. It was actually on our second date on our way to Turks when I was on the plane. I was facing him, and I could just see his eyes. And I could just see his hands and his teeth. And I could tell that he wasn't taking very good care of himself. Maybe on the surface, but not internally.
What about his eyes made you feel that way?
I felt that he was developing jaundice. I felt that his gums were gray, probably from drug use. And I felt that his hands were shaky, probably from over-consuming alcohol.
Do you remember speaking to him about wanting him to go to rehab when you initially started dating?
Yes, absolutely.
What did you tell him?
I told him that we should actually take a trip to Thailand. I know of a rehabilitation center.
No, this is not a good witness.
Thank you. So I said that's the defense's job. I think that's why I was saying yesterday that I think the prosecutors is when they putting some of these people on the stand, they're not sticking to the charges at hand and focusing on the people for that particular testimony, like more on the trafficking, more on the charges that he actually did do, not the dating stuff, taking trips. You talking about how much you love this man and you would do everything to please him and all of this stuff. That's not helping the prosecutor's case. You can't charge him for a woman doing things for him that's saying she's in love with him.
Man, look,
That's love making you do crazy things. That's not
look.
him.
Make sure
Shit, not
make sure y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe. What family?
endless connection.
This Diddy case got her riled up, y'all. Oh man, this is
We gonna finish
crazy.
this tomorrow. Save this
Let's go keep
video.
going on.
Well, no, we need to finish watching this tomorrow.
Oh, all right.
Because I like this one better than that other man yesterday. He was talking. Well, you sped him up, but I like this one. But see, they say love make people do crazy things, so you can't charge Diddy for that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. So